Hi everyone, today I want to share with you a sort of a comparison between my St. Petersburg White Nights palette and my Schmincke Horadam palette. It's just going to be more of a layout share and also a share of what I actually have in these now. I'll call them custom made palettes, because I have basically, especially in this palette here, you'll find a lot of older videos on my channel where I showed you the original setup and then how I was changing it around a few times, and now it's obviously at its final stage. So yeah, so you will be able to basically compare that, and a few of my viewers actually were asking me to share that, so I think you'll be happy to see this video. So let's start with so in terms of palettes, this is a St. Petersburg White Nights and it's a plastic palette. So this one is old, it's from 2007. They don't make them like this anymore. The palettes that they make now I think are lovely, but the good thing about this palette, I was able to remove the insert and actually stick a few more watercolors than you are able to fit in a current in the current palette. So this is what it looks like. So at the back there is nothing at the back, it's quite simple. On the front there is the Nevskaya Palitra logo, and then you flip the top open and it's got this lovely 4 flat sections, slightly tilted. Honestly, I never use them. I used to use them, but I don't do anymore. I use this part of the palette always for the insert, so I keep the insert there and I like it for that reason, nice and clean. So the swatch list that I've done is on Arches rough paper, exactly the same as you will see in the Schmincke Horadam. And I mentioned before, I like this paper. I, for some reason, think the watercolors come out the most vibrant on it. Also because it's so rough, the brilliant texture gives your eye a better perception of all the tonal changes within the color. So that's why I like it personally. And I decided to do the swatches, as you'll see. So let's move on to the next. So this, in this older palette, this part is completely detachable, so you just lift it like this, and as you can see I use this palette here for mixing, and it's great because, you know, you can take it away if you don't need it, or you can insert it into these two things, and it sits completely flat, so it doesn't tilt at all. So it's brilliant for that reason. But I like using it like this as well, so slightly tilted. I hardly ever do any sort of major washes, so it means I don't need a big amount of water for my style of watercoloring, so that works really well. And then this is the actual palette setup. So basically there used to be a plastic insert in the middle that was holding I think 2 rows of watercolors. So I think this was, it used to be a 24 if I'm not mistaken, a 24 color palette. And then I basically took it out, and once I had to kind of use like a, you know, one of those tools to pull it out, and there was plastic sticking out, so I had to break off those plastic bits and stick some, as you can see, some sticky double-sided tape to kind of make them a bit flatter if they were standing out. So a bit of work was required to you know, get this palette to be able to take this many watercolor pans, and these are full pans. So let's see, I don't actually remember how many I have now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 13 in one row. So I basically created a space to fit 39 full pans, which is great. So at the moment I'm missing 2, and that means I have 37 here. I actually have a lot more colors from Schmincke Horadam, but I went in depth kind of researching pigment formulation foremost for their transparency, and I picked out the most transparent colors here. I do not remember out of the top of my head, but I think olive green, and there is one more color here that is not fully transparent, and you will find all of this info in my older videos because I covered off literally every part of it. So yeah, so basically I created I picked out just the transparent colors and absolutely love this palette. And I have my neutrals in a separate little travel palette. I'll just show it to you quickly. So here is my travel palette from Schmincke Horadam, and I basically stuck all of my neutrals right here. And that works really well for me because I hardly ever use them, but I still want to keep them. Okay, so I actually checked again and marked the 9 new colors from 2017 release with a little star. So Indian yellow, Indian gold, Venetian red, quinacridone red I don't have yet, and quinacridone violet rose. They're both also from the new release. Ultramarine violet, blue, and sap green. So those are the 9 colors that are new. I will do picture insert at the end of the video so you can have a good look of this color palette. Okay, so that is that. I'm then going to compare it with the Schminke. So the Schminke palette is super heavy. So currently I have 37 colors in the other one, and this one holds so 37 full pans, and this one holds 48 half pans, and it is super heavy. It's my heaviest palette, and it's metal. I really like the look of it. Before I ordered I thought I would love it, and I love the look of it, but as it ended up it's really impractical. At the bottom I want to show you there is a fingering if you want to hold it, but I don't think anyone would be able to hold this palette for any period of time, or for a long time. And the other thing is it's got this metal things that stick out a little bit, and so be aware if you have a nice desk, don't just sort of cruise it around because it's going to scratch it, and that is the reason why I actually have to lay the Ranger craft mat on my desk today, because I knew I'm going to move it around. And actually when you move it around you can feel this metal part sticking out, so I think that could have been designed a bit differently. Moving on, here is the palette. So in this case the lid lays completely flat, it doesn't fall down. So, and then you have these lovely 4 areas to mix your colors, which I have never used. And here is my swatch card, and exactly the same paper, arches, rough. And I will compare the swatch cards in a bit side by side so you can see the vibrancy difference. Then you get this metal kind of flip palette, which, oops, sorry, falls down as you just heard. It doesn't hover above your desk at all, so it actually goes right down and sits at an angle. So there are these little grooves here which should help you to catch the water in case you like big puddles of water when you're mixing for washes and things like that. For me, as you can see, this is as big as I would get, and it seems to be okay. And sometimes I make sure I rest it on something, so I put like a little I'll show you, like this Stillman and Burn sketchbook, and that works perfectly. So as it is, and nothing is removable in terms of these mixing palettes, it becomes a humongous thing. It's quite impractical from that sense, because if I wanted to paint, imagine I would want my sketchbook on this side, so I would have to move this palette to this side, and then I would need to reach all over this way to get the colors, and I prefer my colors to be quite close to me. So in this case here, what I do is I remove this palette, mixing palette, and I stick it like that, and I am directly next to the watercolors, and that way it's a lot more convenient for me personally. And so with Schminke I cannot do this, and therefore oftentimes what I end up doing is, luckily you have this insert with these two kind of sections sticking out, that you can just lift the actual insert that holds the half pans. Now one thing as well, a lot of people kept saying that their pans move around a lot, and mine don't. As you can see, they're nice, and apart from this one is moving. So to fix that, what you do, I'll just show you this one. I've mentioned this quite a few times, but if you're new to my channel, it might help you. So you see this metal tongue that holds the pans in place. So just push it slightly forwards, like so, and then go in with your little pen, and then just clip it down, and you can see now it's not moving. So that's that's how you do this. And once you've done that, you can see there is even extra space for mixing colors, which again I don't need to do. Another negative for this palette is the sharp edges of the palette, so they're not curled, and so here these ones are not, so you could cut yourself potentially, and hence why I recommend to stick a little bit of a washi tape just to make it a bit more safer, and that's that. So in terms of the I'll show you quickly. So in terms of how this is quite convenient, because, you know, like I said, you can put it anywhere. You can actually, when you're painting and you have a large sketchbook, you can open up the sketchbook and rest it on top. Here's a sketchbook, and for example, I could even do this. I could lay it right on top, provided you keep it nice and clean, and that is it. And I could just paint like that. Or I just put it anywhere I want. I could put it above, I could put it on the side, so that's really useful. The pans here are sitting, actually you'll see it best like so. You can see they're sitting at an angle, which makes it easier, I guess, for you to use it, because they're kind of I don't know, I can't really say that it had made my life a lot easier, that I have noticed a big difference of going into a flat pan or slightly tilted towards me, but it's a nice touch. I think it definitely is nice. And so here then you have enough space to keep a small brush. That's that. And in this case, what I have done is, so this was a 36 plus 12 spaces, so I had watercolors in 3 rows, and then I had an empty row at the bottom, and I then had, you know, added 12 half pans and decided I want to organize them according to their sort of order. And that's what I have done. And now I have 48 half pans, and the neutrals are still here, although with time I would like to get rid of a few. For example, I really am confused by the fact that there is the June Brilliant Dark and Naples Yellow, which are to me almost identical. Why, you know, were they included in the 36 colors, whereas they could have included some lovely transparent bright watercolors? I really have no idea. And then I'm not a huge fan, and I have never been a huge fan of yellow ochre, because it seems to muddle up a lot of color mixes that I have tried, so I literally gave up on that. So that might be a goner. And a few of the neutrals, I think the only ones that I really truly like is burnt sienna. I think that's a beautiful color in most, not most, but some brands. And Payne's green is the one that I have added, so that's definitely staying. Ivory black is great for grey tones, so I might get rid of most of these colors, or not get rid of, but like what I've done with my Nievska palette, keep them separately and just then add lovely colors to here. Although at this point I'm quite happy with the color range I have. I don't think there are any colors at the moment that I am dying to get, so to speak. But yeah, so that's my palette. Here's the comparison between the two. So instantly you can see that White Nights is a lot brighter, and that is I think with Schminke I found that you have to be very careful which colors you use. I mean, I have to again remind you that all of these colors I have specifically picked to be transparent, except for two. I think indigo and olive green, those are the two. The rest are pretty transparent. And here I have a bunch of watercolors, so I didn't do the same as I've done here because they're a lot more expensive. And yeah, so, and the other thing, so the transparency and also vibrancy, with Schminke I find that when you paint something it looks amazing, and then when the color starts drying it always goes down in vibrancy. And although they are quite bright, still you can see these colors are really nice and pungent. They are just, I suppose, not probably as bright as these. Let's just compare the yellows and the reds. You can see what I mean right there. Although these two colors are very similar, if not identical. So transparent yellow is very similar to Indian yellow, and quinacridone gold hue and Indian gold very similar as well. So yeah, you can be the judge of the brightness, and I personally like both of them for different reasons. And there are days where I really love going to the Schminke watercolors, and then there are days where I want some, like a big punch of color, and then I would go either to Magello or to White Nights. So I hope this was useful for you, and I hope it wasn't too long of a video, and I will insert images at the end so you can have a good look and see exactly which colors I have. And if I haven't mentioned the new colors from 2017 in the Schminke, I have also marked with stars, so let me just quickly run through them. So it's quinacridone gold hue, geranium red, quinacridone red light, and ruby red deep, quinacridone purple, transparent green gold, and perylene green. So these are the colors. They have a lot of colors for 2017. If I'm not mistaken, it's about, I think, 36 colors for the 2017 release compared to the 9 colors from White Nights. And yeah, so thanks for watching and see you soon.